Boyd, victory for chickens?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
down here in Cheyenne, a victory for folks that want to raise chickens in the middle of the city.
All right. Boyd Wiggams is with Wyoming Liberty Group, and he's down in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Now, this is something we've talked about in the past before, which, first off, I really don't think a city should get involved in what kind of pets you want to have, even if those pets provide some kind of food. But here's the thing. Boyd, my sister has chickens in her backyard.
Yes.
And their neighbors have dogs. The two don't seem to bother each other, though I always worried the dogs were going to kill the chickens. Now, the neighbors that have the dogs bark at all hours of the day and night, and in the backyard, there's like poop all over the place. My sister's chickens, on the other hand, quietly go around pecking at the ground. You can hear the occasional buck buck sound, but that's about it. So why did anybody in any city in America think that chickens in someone's backyard was any kind of a hazard?
Well, I think if we go back in history, well, you've got a few things going on. Is part of it has to do with how well the chickens are kept, or the livestock are kept, or the ducks, or the dogs, or the cats, and whether or not they start producing all sorts of foul smells.
Foul smells, literally.
Yeah, pun not intended this time.
Right.
And then once upon a time, there was some concern about things like transmissibility of diseases, cholera, for example, and it just generally unsanitary. If you think about it, folks that would have been moving from the countryside
so
into the city would have had
dogs.
some experience with chickens and
but
predators.
I mean, the dogs can be very unsanitary. I mean, especially when they get loose and go running across the neighborhood, killing things and laying, literally dropping waste on everything.
Absolutely, they absolutely can.
Yeah.
And in my view, a dog can generate the same kind of obnoxiousness that becomes a nuisance that a chicken can, or a horse for that matter. But, once upon a time, progressives thought that the way to make a clean, healthy, happy, safe city was to keep all the livestock out.
Right.
Livestock including anything that you might raise for economic purposes.
Okay, so in the city of Cheyenne, and I'm happy to say, like in many other cities around America, this fight has been going on. And there's been a lot of victory out there. I've been surprised how many cities have decided, okay, fine, if you want to keep chickens, you can keep chickens. They just put a few restrictions on it, but you can have chickens. So what did Cheyenne do?
Well, Cheyenne went down the same route. The city of Cheyenne capped the number of chickens that people could have. They capped the size of the coops. They also required a minimum size on the coops. Gave some restrictions on how you have to build the coops. And let's see. One of the things that Cheyenne did differently than a lot of cities was, instead of going down to City Hall to pull a permit and pay a fee or whatever, if you want to keep chickens, you have to get a signed permission or agreement from all of the people whose property touches yours, your adjacent property.
Your next door neighbors have to agree. See, now that's the part that I actually don't like, because I mean, it's my property. I don't want my neighbors to have a say.
Well, and this is where that delicate balance of property rights that we've talked about in the past comes in. The real problem with chickens, or the real problem with anything that can generate noise, generate smell, generate all sorts of external impacts, is how they affect the ability of nearby property owners to also quietly enjoy and use their own property free of unreasonable interference. If you don't take care of your chickens, they can really start smelling bad and attract all sorts of other bad things, rabid skunks. So, if you're not going to do a good job, and if there's going to be a problem, it's going to affect the ability of your neighbors to use their property. That's why you've got this. You've got to not only get permission from your neighbors, but now that permission is irrevocable for 180 days.
Okay.
And after that, if things go bad, it's a way for the neighbors to deal with it without having to have the city have the first crack at everything.
Okay, now you're about as a limited, non-interference government kind of guy as I've ever met.
Yes.
Does this idea set well with you, or would you have done it a different way?
I actually like it.
Okay.
What I really like about this particular way of doing it, there's two things I really like about this particular way of doing it. Is first of all, City Hall does not get involved with whether or not you've got chickens or not. Under this ordinance in Cheyenne, you never have to get permission from City Hall. The only people you're talking to are the people who also have private property rights that are immediately adjacent to you.
Right.
And so that really brings the impacts, brings the cooperation back to individuals and back to the people that do have a property interest in how you use your property.
Okay, so it's forcing you, if you got a neighbor that you don't get along with and you want chickens, it's forcing you to figure out a way to get along with your neighbor.
More importantly, it's forcing you to ensure that keeping chickens is not interfering with your neighbors. But if you've got a neighbor that you don't get along with, there may be some bridges that need mended first.
Well, one way to do that, just tossing this out, Boyd, eggs.
Could be.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because I've got, for example, I don't know if you had a chance to meet DJ yet. She's part of the Bold Republic radio program here. She's got a barn. She's got chickens in her barn, and she has more eggs than she knows what to do with. And so we're all getting free eggs around here. Can't tell you the last time I've had to shop for eggs. So if you have a neighbor who wants some chickens in their backyard and you're not necessarily getting along with that neighbor, you might just want to work out a deal is all I'm saying.
Yeah, as long as they don't have a cholesterol problem.
There you go.
Golden.
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem at all. Well, it depends on what you feed the chickens too. Okay. So this has been passed. This is a done deal in Cheyenne?
This is a done deal pending publication in newspaper or record.
Okay. Now, first of all, let me ask the number. How many chickens you allowed to
have? It'll be a maximum of 6 chickens. It started off at 5 and kind of got it pushed towards 6 during the hearing process.
Now, here's the next thing, because this has been a problem in some cities around America. So let's say I decide I'm going to go in my backyard and get dinner, and I'm not after eggs.
Well, this was one of the really funny things about this particular ordinance.
Yeah,
and
funny for you, not the bird, Boyd, but go ahead.
Well, in my experience, by supper time, there aren't very many birds that have a sense of humor.
Yeah, right.
At first, the folks that drafted this ordinance were trying to, like a lot of places, prevent people from actually killing and butchering the chickens in the city limits.
Right.
But the way this ordinance was phrased was, when I read the ordinance, it meant that any chicken that found its way into the city as a city chicken was free from getting butchered and was only going to meet its demise in the hands of a veterinarian.
So you could quite literally turn to an obnoxious chicken and say, "I will sell you down the river."
Well, that under the original draft of the ordinance, that chicken could not be killed at the direction of the owner.
Now,
one of the changes we had to get fixed is
not to get overcomplicated, but I doubt anybody would have a problem with. So you want to go ahead and have a chicken dinner. So you bring the chicken outside the city limits and have it killed and cleaned. You might even do it yourself. Then you can bring it back in.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the way it's set up.
Who would know, though, if you went into the shed and hacked one up? I mean, honestly.
Probably whoever was downwind of the feathers.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe that's it. Well, you make him a feather pillow. Come on, Boyd.
And in my experience, doing chickens, it has a distinctive smell.
It does,
especially if you do more than one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Boyd, you write about this kind of stuff and a lot of other things. Where do they find your writing and all the great work that you do?
We are at www.whyliberty.org.
All right.
We also are. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay. Thank you for coming on, Boyd. As always, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Glenn.
Nice.